Have you ever wondered what would happen if the sun stopped shining or disappeared? Research shows that the possibility of this happening is quite thin, and the sun will most likely be in the galaxy for 1 billion years from now. However, hypothetically speaking, this is what would happen if the sun stopped shining or disappeared from the solar system. In a minute after the sun's disappearance. If the sun stops shining or disappears, no one would realize it in the first minute. It would take around 8 minutes for anyone to figure out that something is wrong. You might be thinking, why is this? It's because it takes about 8 minutes and a couple of seconds for the sun's light to reach the Earth. So if it were to go dark everywhere in the world, it would take 8 minutes more or less. The first thing that would be affected by the sun's disappearance would be the sun's light in the world. Not only the days, but the nights will be dark too, and no one would be able to see the moon again. People will realize that something is not right because the moon will disappear immediately due to not having any of its light. It is said that if the sun disappears, the Earth's motion will get affected. Earth is currently circularly revolving around the sun, but it would start moving in a straight line. Plants need photosynthesis to survive. It is the reason they are believed to be affected immediately. By now, you're most likely wondering that in a few minutes or maximum hours, all humans would die, and life on Earth would cease to exist. Not quite. It's proved that the human beings on this planet need about 6 trillion kilograms of oxygen. So in the case of the sun's disappearance, the humans would still be able to live for thousands of years because the atmosphere has about 1 quintillion kilograms of oxygen. 1 week after the sun's disappearance. A week after the sun's disappearance, some of the things that would happen would include many small plants dying or even dead. Large trees would still survive for years because they are much stronger and contain more sugar to produce energy to live. However, in a week, the temperature of Earth would drop down to 0 degrees Celsius. It would mean that although the big trees would have enough energy, they would die of the cold due to the freezing water stored inside them. The temperature would affect human beings too, as there will be no place on our Earth where it is not cold. Humans would face issues including a lack of vitamin D due to the absence of the sun. People could already start dying, some due to the cold and some because of other diseases. Many would become weak, their immune system unable to fight against the cold. Many have assumed that human life would no longer be on the ground as time passed, but it will start to go underground so humans and animals can survive the cold. In a month after the sun's disappearance. The conditions on Earth will keep worsening in the absence of the sun. The temperature is estimated to drop down to minus 10 degrees Celsius, making it extremely difficult for human life to survive on the ground. The oceans, seas, or any other water body would freeze. However, the water below will remain liquid as the Earth's core is solid. Plants will be long dead, trees hard to survive, humans and animals dying at a shocking rate. There is a probability that the survivors might start doing something about this problem. They might start working on creating an artificial sun that will help the human race survive and not become extinct. One solution to increase human life would be to live near the geothermal vents. They can serve as an alternative to the sun. However, those who do not live near these vents will not survive due to the supremely harsh weather. As the plants will mostly be dead by then, humans will have to switch to eating animal meat that can lead to the extinction of animals consumed by human beings. In a year after the sun's disappearance. By the time it will be a year since the sun stopped shining, conditions on Earth will deteriorate significantly. There is a high chance that human civilization will reduce to a small number. Living plants are nowhere to be seen. Trees will give up due to the extremely low temperature, most likely drop to minus 100 degrees Celsius, thus making it nearly impossible for humans and animals to survive on Earth. By this time, it is predicted that most human beings would die, and only a handful of people might still be able to survive. If not from the cold due to any miracle, people would die of starvation. At this point, there will be neither plants and not even animals alive for them to eat. Although there are ways that humans and animals could survive despite the disappearance of the sun, if they build submarines, humans could live under the ocean, deep down where the water would not have frozen despite the dangerously low temperature. If an alternative to producing electricity is not found by then, the Earth would be dark and gloomy. By then, humans, if any left, would become accustomed to the dark or would be using electricity everywhere. They might even find a way to survive amid this crisis and live underwater or underground. 10 years after the sun's disappearance. It has been 10 years since the world last saw the sun. People are dying left and right, and you might also even be dead due to the cold, a disease, or starvation. There is only a limited time until the food for animals and humans is available, after which death from starvation becomes common. The water will freeze by then from the surface, and the temperature has unimaginably dropped. There may be no sign of any sort of plantation, trees, or even a patch of greenery, as everything will die due to the lack of the process of photosynthesis in the absence of the sun. There would be no concept of daytime, and if humans somehow survive and reproduce, the new generation would be living in a chaotic world and would know only darkness. The world would be living completely differently than it was 10 years prior, and it would be the new normal.